As you know, I think it's really important for you to be empowered in every area of your life. And I feel like that goes double, triple, maybe even quadruple for being empowered at work. I'm ready to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's go. My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie, and yes, I am back and I am your favorite empowerment coach. I want to take a moment and just thank those of you who are liking the videos, commenting on the videos, watching the videos, sharing the videos. I want to thank you all for that and for supporting this channel that has been created to support you. So today I want to talk about setting boundaries at work. And you know, I always have notes, right? I don't always have notes, but for something this important, I got notes. So I want to talk to you about setting boundaries at work, which I know can be kind of a dicey thing because oftentimes we're not setting boundaries at work because we're afraid that our job will be on the line, or we're afraid that if we don't work really, really hard as an owner, then we won't reach our goals. And I want to dispel a few myths that I started to dispel in the 5 things video. Okay. And if you didn't watch it, now would be a great time to watch it, which is 5 things that your team may need that they're actually not asking you for. And all of these things contribute to having a mindful and productive workforce, even if that workforce is only you. So I created this video for owners and leaders. This means you, because even if you don't own the business, I know that I serve high achieving coaches, business owners, and leaders. So you are leading the charge in some shape, form, or fashion, even if you don't have the title that goes with it. Anyway, I thought it was really important that we talk about setting boundaries at work because in the end, it helps you do better. All right. So owners, leaders, pay attention. This one is definitely for you. So first of all, why? Why do we need to set boundaries at work? Because, here I am moving the notes over here, because that helps us to increase productivity overall. Some of you may know this and you may not. For 11 years, I was a college professor teaching business management as well as marketing and entrepreneurship and human relations and whatever else they assigned to me. For 11 years, I was a professor, a college professor. And one of the tenets in my classroom was something that I call stressed out, checked out. And I'm going to evoke that here. Because if your workers, and that means you, if you're a solopreneur, you are not absolutely absolved from any of this. You need to check yourself too, because I know way too many people that own the business and they are the ones working from sun up to sundown. This means you. See, notice how I put my head down so you wouldn't see me looking directly at you, but I'm looking at you now. And you know who you are. And you know what, if I'm honest, I used to be that way too. I would work. I'm a Rihanna song, work. And I would do all of this work only to really sit back and say, did I even hit the metrics, or did I just check boxes off of my things to do list? And again, if you're an owner or a leader, you're leading a team, or you own a business and you're leading the business, you want your team, even if you're a team of one, to be as productive as possible. And so this is why it becomes so important to set boundaries. Now, I don't want you to make the mistake of thinking that setting boundaries at work is synonymous with shirking your responsibilities. I have seen people want to use mental health days and all of this as a excuse to not do what they are called to do in their position. Okay, I've seen people do that. And I truly believe that you will know the difference between somebody who is just, throwing out, oh, I need a mental health day, oh, self-care, blah, 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 blah. And they're actually recusing themselves from the responsibility that they were hired for. Then those people who are genuinely saying, hey, I'm committed to what I was hired to do, but I have diminished capacity and I need to honor that as well. All right, so we don't want to do that. But the key thing we want to make sure that we do, because remember, stressed out, checked out, we want to reduce stress. Why do we want to reduce stress? Okay, I'm also a certified integrative nutrition coach. Yes, I throw all of this at my clients, y'all. They're just like, okay, I'm literally like 8 to 10 coaches in one body. Like, you get it all. And so as an integrative nutrition health coach, I want to say to you that if you heard that, my phone just fell off of my lap because it was tired. It needed a rest. So I'm just going to let it do that. But what I want you to understand is that you have two different nervous systems, and I always get this wrong, so I'm not going to even specify. You have two different nervous systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic, okay? One is rest and digest, the other is fight or flight. When you are stressed out, what happens often is that you put your body into a chronic stress response, which means you are on fight or flight. The unfortunate about that is that your body is created and it loves homeostasis, it loves balance, and it can remain balanced when your stress responses are acute. That means they're short. When it comes to being in a chronic stress response, the unfortunate thing that happens is that there are cycles in your body that never cycle out. So a lot of times when women are saying, oh my God, I can't lose this middle, this belly fat, this fupa, some people want to call it. A lot of times that's cortisol, and that's a stress hormone. And it's coursing through your body because you are stressed out and checked out because you're not managing your workload appropriately. Those of you who are team leaders and supervisors, I know people have taught us and socialized us to believe that stress is a part of work. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be completely stressed to the hill. Yes, will there be some stress at work? Yeah, absolutely. It's not rainbows and rosé. But to think that you have to constantly be in a stress response in order to get work done is not healthy. And if you want to know what's really going to cost you as a business owner, even if that business owner is you, an unhealthy employee, an unhealthy team member, an unhealthy leader. Because at that point, the body is now taking over because the mind has not been honored. And so that person might be out sick. That could be you. That person could be, unable to attend to their work the way that they should. They have not only diminished capacity, but they have no capacity. And so what do you do with that? So again, one of the reasons why we want to set boundaries at work is to reduce stress. Remember, stressed out, checked out. We don't want that because that impacts not only the organization and its morale, but the bottom line. And profitability definitely matters. So how do we do that? How do we set boundaries at work? Well, I think one of the first things we have to be is mindful of our own capacity. And that may mean that at some point you have to turn inward and check yourself and say, hey, am I overworking? Am I overperforming? Am I overgiving? Am I overdoing? And by over, what I mean is not so much that you're going above and beyond in excellence, because sometimes, you just want to put a nice little bow on it, and that's great. I'm talking about those moments where you didn't just put a bow on it. You went out and you bought a bow. Actually, you went out and bought plastic and you started to manufacture bows, and you added color to it, and you watched a YouTube video that would teach you how to color a bow. And then you take that bow and you put it on top of the box, and then you watch another YouTube video to teach you how to tie some crazy knot. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. And in that, if you're the person that's, going out and sourcing plastic so you can make bows versus making sure that you're very intentional with what you do as you put a bow on the things that you do, then your capacity more than likely was diminished probably 8 years ago. And you just chose not to, what's the word I'm looking for, guys? I lose my words sometimes. You just chose not to honor it. You just chose not to recognize. And so if you become honestly mindful about your capacity in a particular day, in a particular project, then that will allow you to do two things. One, because I'm going to get into that in a minute. One, that's going to allow you to say, hey, I just realized I can only do X, Y, and Z well, which means you can't do X, Y, and Z and alpha and beta and chi, and you can't do all of that. Right? You can't do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 billion. Well, what can you do well with your mind and your body intact to where you're not depleted? These are real questions we should be asking. Case in point, I'm making this video for you guys. Love making videos, love making content, love teaching. But what I realized very early on, though I might have a slate of videos that need to get done, I can probably do 2 videos well. 2, not the 5 that I put on the list. So I would have to break them up. Does that mean the 5 won't get done? They absolutely will. Does that mean I couldn't do 5 in one day? But in one setting, what I know that I'm going to do well is 2. How do I know that? Because I did 3 and I was absolutely depleted. I was completely worn out. I don't want to be absolutely depleted and worn out. It's just not what I want to do in my life. So 2 is my number. Same thing in my coaching practice. When I was seeing clients face to face, I probably would only see 2 clients a day. It's like, what? Yeah. Because I realized when I would stack my clients and maybe try to do 3 to 4, I would be worn out. Does that mean I can't do it? Absolutely, I can. The question is not if you can, the question is, should you? And so even in my marketing life, same thing. But in my marketing life, I started to implore a strategy that I'm going to give to you. Ready? It's called ask for deadlines. That's me looking at the paper. Guys, you know I'm going to always just be me. You know that. So I look at the paper. That's what I do. I'm not going to try to sex this up. And the paper says ask for deadlines, which I knew it was there. I just wanted to make sure. And in that inquiry for deadlines, you're saying, okay, when do you need this? Novel idea, huh? Well, it is a novel idea because oftentimes we are taught to process in work that everything is important and urgent. And if you ever looked at an Eisenhower matrix, you'll know what I'm talking about. There are boxes. There are 4 boxes on the Eisenhower matrix, and they're broken down by important and urgent. Some things are important, but they're not urgent. Some things are not urgent or not important. Some things are urgent, but not important. And some things are neither important nor urgent. I think I did that right. I'm going to put a resource with the Eisenhower matrix down below in the comments. So yay, you can work that out on your own. But what I'm saying to that is oftentimes in work, we take on the idea that whatever we're asked to do is both important and urgent and we need to get it done. Because I think some of us are deathly afraid of losing our positions. And I'm like, listen, let's get this out of the way, okay? Unless you're a complete slacker, which you probably aren't because you're watching a video on how to set boundaries at work, which to me says that you've probably been overworking, overdoing, overperforming for quite some time. I'm going to say that your job is not on the line. You're not the person whose job is on the line. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. So when you ask your coworker, when you ask your team member, or your team member asks you, when is this due? What we're trying to do with that statement is to figure out if we can come to an agreement as to when this can get done. Because it probably can't get done today. And in the ability to ask for deadlines and to set deadlines, what we do is we do a couple of things. One, we can increase the likelihood that things may get done before the deadline, but also it puts everybody on the same page so that Sally doesn't walk away from her conversation with Jim thinking that, oh, he's going to work on this right now. Well, unbeknownst to her, Jim had like 3 different projects ahead of what she was asking for. And so if the unfortunate, situation is that Sally's a micromanager, because you don't have to be the manager to micromanage. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Then about 24 hours, Sally's going to come saying, hey, Jim, what about what we talked about? Hey, Jim, when we can eliminate all that. And again, that may cause Jim to have a stress response because Sally's already in a stress response because she's already got a little bit of, chronic anxiety, maybe a little acute anxiety, and she likes to micromanage. She likes to be in control. But these are all other videos that I can make to talk about Sally. Right now, I'm talking about this. So in that, we're asking for deadlines so that both parties or all the parties can modify if needed. Because our goal is to have a mindful, productive workforce or workspace. That's our goal. Our goal is not to have people scatter like ants to go out and build a better mousetrap. That's not the goal. That's not the goal. So here's the thing, and this may not be popular, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. If for some reason you cannot come to a conclusion, a mutually beneficial conclusion of what works for you both as it relates to asking for deadlines, then I'm going to tell you to say no. If you can't do it well, not be drained, not be stressed out and checked out, then you might need to say no. What? Who says no at work? People that want to remain healthy. people that want to remain healthy, people that want to remain in balance, people that want to balance their skills and their gifts, people who want to have energy to put towards their loved ones when they get home, people who don't want to grow to resent the work that they do. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's okay to say no. And if it's not okay to say no, then I'm going to talk to you owners and leaders who are setting the tone within the organization to say that no needs to be okay. Again, we are only setting boundaries because we want to do the best work possible. We're not setting boundaries so we can circumvent the work that we're supposed to do. That's not it at all. So say no if you can't. If you can't meet the deadline and you can't do a great job without being stressed out and checked out, consider saying no. Now, some of you don't care what I say. You're going to say yes. You're going to take it on. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to be upset. You're going to have your stomach in knots and your shoulders up to here, and you're going to get it done. But that's your choice. I'm trying to give you some more options. So specifically talking to owners and leaders, let me say this. You set the tone for a mindful workspace and workforce. I just said that a minute ago. I said the same thing in the video about the 5 things that your team needs. I said that. You're setting the tone. And so your commitment to boundaries sets the example of what everybody else is going to do. And again, if you're a team of 1, this is absolutely for you. But wait, boundaries on what, Stephanie? How do I set boundaries? I'm so glad that you would ask me that question. Well, the way owners and leaders, I feel, well, I won't even say where they can set boundaries because there's a plethora of places that they can set boundaries, but you can definitely set boundaries on accessibility. Yes, I know that your team may need you, but listen, if you say to your team, and whatever that means, I am not available from this time to this time. I'm not available via phone if you want to kind of niche it down. I'm not available via phone. I am available via email. I will respond to your email by the next business day. These are boundaries. These are absolute boundaries. And team members, I think, should have those same rights because everybody is all up in arms about work-life balance. I'm talking about work-day balance. And this means that at some point you cut off work. You say, well, what if they need me? What if they need me? You know what? I can tell you as a professor, as a former professor who received emails on her computers, all of her computers, her tablet, as well as her phone. I have answered student emails at midnight. They have been shocked that I answered their email at all, let alone at midnight. I stopped doing that. I stopped doing that because though I may be up, accessibility is a thing for me. If I am up at 12 o'clock, I am more than likely trying to decompress, which means that I am not in a space where I want to amp myself back up so I can answer this question or explain this. By that same token, I also write a really robust syllabus in everything. My college syllabus, robust. I guess my college syllabi. My college syllabi were always robust. My courses that I teach with my clients, pretty robust. So I didn't leave them without instruction. And that's why I say, again, this is not about shirking your responsibility. This is not about cutting off your phone and saying, aha, whatever happens, happens. No, this is about setting boundaries, but also making sure that you're putting proper protocols in place. That's why I said, maybe you're not available via phone, but you might be available via email. Then it becomes incumbent upon you to also turn off the part of you that checks your email incessantly. So maybe you no longer check email past 10 o'clock. Maybe if you have a work phone, you turn it completely off. And you encourage your team to do the same. Maybe you all have a weekend clause where over the weekend, we don't talk. We don't talk about work. Now, if you have personal relationships, we can talk about that, but we don't talk shop over the weekend. Whatever the boundary may be, you set the tone. But I think the greatest thing that you could set the tone on is your workload and how you're assigning those workloads and putting in requirements for self-care. real requirements for self-care, not after the workday. We're not talking about work-life balance. Again, we're talking about workday balance. And sometimes people need a minute. Maybe they had a really stressful call with someone and they just need a minute to ground themselves. But maybe there's a numbers game that happens. I used to be in sales. I get it. There's a numbers game that's happening. And so unfortunately, they have to take call after call after call after call. Well, here's the thing, stressed out, checked out. Though they may be taking the calls and they may be very nice, I can almost guarantee they will do a better job if they would have had a moment to gather themselves between calls. Let's not digress. So even in that, requirements for self-care, if you as the owner and the leader are demonstrating self-care, then that's an energy that's going to permeate the organization. That's going to permeate your team. That makes everything okay. If you're a person who wants to work from sun up to sundown and you don't understand why people are not on the same page as you, then that's the tone that you're setting. And you're probably creating a lot of workers who are about to be burned out if you haven't already. I'm just being honest. So we want balance within the workday, not just between work and life. And what we need to recognize is that only benefits the team and the company as a whole. It really does. It really does. Look at the notes. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything because I don't want to have to, I can't go back, right? I'll just have to like make another video. But the thing that I want, that I really want to get across to you is that when individuals are being worked to the bone and when you're working yourself to the bone, what that creates is a breeding ground for resenting the work and reducing initiative. Resenting the work and reducing initiative. I'm reading this. Working to the bone creates a breeding ground for resenting the work and reducing initiative. When I wrote that on this trusty little note card, I was like, wow, that explains so much, especially in the reducing the initiative part. Because if someone works for a company and they truly feel like that company doesn't care about them, at some point they're going to stop taking the initiative. They're going to stop putting the bow on that box and crossing their T's and dotting their I's in glitter. They're going to stop. They're going to start to produce the bare minimum. Or they're going to produce without joy. And you're like, well, why do they need joy? They don't need joy. You need joy. A mindful workforce, a mindful workspace is one that has joy within it. It's built in, it's in the fabric, it's woven into the tapestry of the organization. Have you ever been around a bunch of people that don't have joy? Yeah, you don't want that. So if you're an owner or a leader and you can control that narrative, please control it. I'm not saying to make people a bunch of slackers. I'm not saying to let them shirk and skirt their responsibilities. I'm saying that when people know that their companies care about them, that feels so good. If you go back to the 5 things video, I actually in the comments linked the article to the CEO that decided to pay everybody $70,000. He took a pay cut for that to happen. It changed the dynamic of the organizations. Now, some other things have happened since then, but it still has changed the dynamic within the organization. Look how powerful you are as an owner or a leader to set the tone for how people work. And I don't know about you, but I have worked with people that resented the work. I have worked with people that didn't want to do the job that they had. That's not fun. In fact, that energy is cancerous. And at some point, it can metastasize and spread all over your organization, even if the organization is just you. Solopreneurs, you are not going to get away from this. You're really not. And if you're a solopreneur, why aren't you scaling? Is that another video I need to make? Because even if it's just you and an OBM, or which is an online business manager, or a virtual assistant, you should still have a team. And you should be setting the tone for that team. All right. So my thing is, at the end of the day, all right, former business professor, award-winning marketer, worked with all these companies in marketing and done all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. The reason why I'm making this video is because I want you to connect mindful productivity and profitability. I want you to connect them, right? And I want you to understand that they go together. Stressed out, checked out. That's what we're trying to avoid. Chronic stress responses, we're trying to avoid that. We don't want sick workers. We don't want emotionally unhealthy workers. That will create minefields in your workspace. Well, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is the end of the notes. You made it through and you didn't click off. I'm so proud of you, because I know that some of these things I'm sharing with you, they're actually paradigm shifts. You may not have ever considered this. You may have been brought up in a time where work was just work and deal with it. But as an owner or a leader that has the authority to shift the narrative, I want you to start some shift. S-H-I-F-T. All right. So listen, connect mindful productivity to profitability. And guess what? Watch your business and your team soar to success. And listen, even if they've already been successful, they're going to do more. They're going to blow your minds. They're going to come and take initiative. They're going to see opportunities and seize them. They're going to be invigorated, all because the right to set boundaries is clear as crystal. Okay, it's clear as crystal. And it's also clear that there are not going to be consequences. No negative consequences. Now, if they're a slacker, listen, they've been a slacker. But giving people the right to say no, to have balance within their workday, these are powerful things. And so again, I charge you. You're an owner or a leader and you're watching this, or even if you're a team member and you have a great relationship with your manager, your supervisor, or even the company owner, share this video. More people need to know this, okay? And I know it may sound a little out there, maybe it's a little woo-woo. It's not really. These are things that should have been implemented long ago, because ultimately, if you're going to spend 8 to 12 hours a day doing something, which definitely there's a boundary that probably needs to be set there. But if you're going to spend all this time working, then my hope, and I believe that you should be able to do work you love, impact others positively, and be well compensated for it. That's what I believe. And so for those of you who are still working in organizations and you're not working for yourself, or even if you are working for yourself, boundaries matter. And that's all I have to say about that. My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie. I am a speaker, teacher, author, and coach, here to remind you and your team to always be your own superhero, and to thank you guys for loving and learning and setting boundaries, because we don't just set boundaries, we've got a whole process to that. Thank you for doing all of that with me.